After my cancer surgery, I posted in our family group chat, "Out of recovery. Doctor says I can go home tomorrow. Who can pick me up?" My daughter Amanda replied, "Dad, Derek and I have a showing. Just Uber home." My wife Patricia added, "Robert, stay another week. I finally have the house to myself." But when they saw my Facebook post that evening announcing I'd sold our lakefront condo and donated the proceeds to the hospital, they sent me 89 messages in 4 hours. What I did next changed everything. Before we continue, please subscribe to Velvet Revenge and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now. The fluorescent lights above my hospital bed hummed like angry wasps. My eyes cracked open to a ceiling that seemed to spin in lazy circles. The antiseptic smell hit my nostrils first, sharp and chemical. Then came the pain. My abdomen felt like someone had taken a blowtorch to my insides. I tried to shift position, and my whole body screamed in protest. Tubes snaked from my arms. Monitors beeped in rhythm with my heartbeat. A morphine drip hung beside my bed, the clear liquid counting out my survival one drop at a time. "Mr. Lawson." A nurse appeared at my bedside, her scrubs decorated with smiling cartoon bears. "I'm Teresa. You're in Northwestern Memorial Hospital. You just came out of surgery about 3 hours ago. How's your pain level?" 10 out of 10, I croaked. My throat felt like sandpaper. She adjusted something on my IV, and within seconds, the edges of the pain began to soften. "That's better medication. The surgeon will be in shortly to talk to you." I stared at the ceiling tiles, trying to piece together how I'd gotten here. The last thing I remembered was being wheeled into the operating room, the anesthesiologist counting backward from 10. The cold sensation of drugs entering my veins. "Doctor." Patel entered 20 minutes later, still in surgical scrubs. "Robert, the surgery went well. We removed the tumor from your colon. It was stage 2, contained, no spread to lymph nodes. You're going to be fine." Fine. The word echoed in my head. 3 months ago, I'd been coaching youth baseball in Lincoln Park. 2 months ago, the blood in my stool sent me to the doctor. 6 weeks ago, the colonoscopy revealed the mass. 4 weeks ago, Dr. Patel told me I had cancer. "You'll need to stay here for observation, 5 to 7 days. Then home recovery for about 6 weeks. No heavy lifting, no strenuous activity. We'll start you on a modified diet tomorrow." After he left, I reached for my phone on the bedside tray. The screen showed it was March 17th, 2025. Tuesday evening. I'd been in surgery for 4 hours. I scrolled through notifications, spam emails, news alerts, weather warnings about the spring storm coming through Chicago, nothing from my family. I opened our family group chat. The last message was from 3 days ago, Amanda asking if she could borrow my truck for Derek's business opportunity. Before that, Patricia complaining that I'd forgotten to pick up her dry cleaning. Not a single message asking how the surgery went. Not one call to check if I was still alive. My finger hovered over the keyboard. I typed, "Surgery done, doing okay, love you all." I stared at those words for a full minute, then deleted them. Instead, I wrote what was actually true. The response came faster than I'd expected. Amanda's name appeared first, and I felt a flutter of hope in my chest. "Dad, Derek and I have a showing. Just Uber home." I read it 3 times, making sure I understood correctly. My daughter, who I'd put through Northwestern University, who lived rent-free in the lakefront condo I'd bought as an investment property, couldn't take 2 hours to drive her father home after cancer surgery. But Patricia would be different. We'd been married 35 years. She'd want to bring me home, take care of me during recovery. Her message appeared below Amanda's. "Robert, stay another week. I finally have the house to myself." The phone slipped from my fingers onto the white blanket. The morphine made everything feel distant and floaty, but that message cut through the haze like a knife. "Stay another week. I finally have the house to myself." I closed my eyes and let the pain medication pull me under. As I drifted, a memory surfaced from 40 years ago. I was 23, fresh out of the fire academy, standing in front of a beautiful Victorian house in Oak Park. The realtor was explaining the mortgage terms while Patricia squeezed my hand, her eyes shining with dreams. "Robert, this is too expensive," she'd whispered. "Can we really afford this?" "I'll work overtime," I'd promised. "Double shifts, whatever it takes." And I had. For 40 years I'd worked those double shifts. Holidays, weekends, running into burning buildings, while my family slept safely in that Victorian house I'd bought them. The memory shifted. 1995. Amanda was 4 years old, and I'd been accepted into the Chicago Fire Department's hazmat training program. Elite certification that would mean better pay, more dangerous work. "Do you have to?" Patricia had asked, not looking up from her magazine. "Amanda needs you here." But Patricia needed new kitchen cabinets. Amanda needed a private preschool. The hazmat certification paid for both. Another memory. 2008. The economy crashed, and firefighters faced pay cuts. I was 46, qualified for early retirement with a decent pension. Finally, Patricia had said when I mentioned it, "You can retire, and we'll travel. See Europe. Maybe buy a condo in Florida." Then Amanda graduated college with no job prospects. She needed money to get her real estate license, living expenses while she built her client base, a car that looked professional for showing properties. I stayed on the force for another 15 years. The Europe trips went into a drawer with my other postponed dreams. The Florida condo money became Amanda's startup fund. The morphine pulled me deeper. I dreamed of burning buildings and unanswered phone calls. The next morning arrived with weak March sunlight through my hospital window. Teresa brought me ice chips and checked my vitals. "You had a good night," she said cheerfully. "Doctor wants to see how you do with liquids today. If all goes well, maybe real food tomorrow." My phone showed 17 unread messages and my heart jumped. Finally, they'd come around. They'd realized how serious cancer surgery was. I opened the group chat. All 17 messages were from Patricia. "Did you pay the visa bill?" The landscaper called. "Do we need spring mulch?" "Amanda says the condo dishwasher is broken. Can you call someone?" "Robert, are you ignoring me?" "Fine. I'll handle everything myself like always." I set the phone down carefully, like it might explode. Over the next 5 days, I watched the same pattern repeat. Patricia sent demands disguised as questions. Amanda sent requests for money or favors. Neither asked how I was feeling. Neither mentioned visiting. The nurses noticed. Teresa brought me extra pudding cups. The day nurse, Marcus, spent 20 minutes showing me photos of his kids. Even Dr. Patel seemed to take longer during his rounds, asking about my life beyond the cancer. "Do you have family support at home?" he asked on day 4. "Recovery is easier with help." "Plenty of support," I lied. "I'll be fine." But I wasn't fine. At 63 years old, lying in a hospital bed after cancer surgery, I was finally seeing my life with perfect clarity. I was alone. I'd always been alone. I'd just been too busy providing for them to notice. On day 5, a social worker named Janet came to discuss my discharge plan. "Insurance will cover home health visits," she explained. "A nurse can check your surgical site, help with medications. Do you have someone who can prepare meals? Handle household tasks during recovery?" I thought about Patricia's message. "I finally have the house to myself." "I'll manage," I told Janet. She gave me a look that said she'd heard that before. "Mr. Lawson, recovery from this surgery isn't easy. You need support." After she left, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling tiles. Each tile had tiny holes, thousands of them, letting sound pass through without being seen. That's what I'd been, a man full of tiny holes, letting my family's needs pass through me without ever considering my own. My roommate, an elderly man named Frank recovering from a hip replacement, had visitors every day. His wife brought homemade soup. His kids took turns sitting with him. His grandchildren drew pictures that covered his side of the room. "You're lucky," I told him one afternoon. Frank smiled from his bed. "Took me 78 years to build this," he said, gesturing to his family crowded around. "But I built it with people who wanted to build back." The words hit me like falling timber. That night, I made a decision. When they finally discharged me on day 7, I didn't call Patricia or Amanda. I opened my phone and requested an Uber XL to accommodate my recovery restrictions. The driver was a kind Pakistani man named Hassan, who helped me carefully into the back seat. "Hospital trips are hard," he said as we merged onto Lakeshore Drive. "But you're going home now. That's good." "Is it?" The question came out before I could stop it. Hassan glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "Home is only good if the people there want you there." We drove in silence through the Chicago afternoon, past the lake still gray with winter, past the downtown skyline I'd looked at for 40 years while riding fire trucks to emergencies. My house appeared around the corner. The Victorian in Oak Park I'd bought 40 years ago, paid off with overtime shifts and hazmat certifications and delayed dreams. It should have looked like home. Instead, it looked like evidence. I paid Hassan and stood on the sidewalk, surgical incisions pulling with each breath. Through the front window, I could see the living room I'd refinished 3 times, the furniture I'd bought, the walls I'd painted. A house full of my work, inhabited by people who wished I'd stayed away longer. I walked up the front steps one at a time, my hand pressed against my abdomen. The key turned in the lock, and I stepped into my house for what I already knew would be one of the last times. The smell hit me first. Perfume. Expensive perfume that Patricia only wore when she was feeling particularly pleased with herself. And something else. Wine. The good wine from the collection I'd been saving. I walked slowly through the entryway, past my firefighter commendations on the wall, past the family photos documenting 40 years of smiles I'd bought with overtime pay. The living room told the story clearly. Empty wine bottles lined the coffee table. Designer shopping bags were scattered across my furniture. The TV was paused on some reality show. They'd been having a party. While I was having cancer cut out of my body, my wife and daughter had been celebrating my absence. I moved through the evidence like a fire investigator at a scene. Patricia's new clothes hanging in the bedroom, tags still attached, hundreds of dollars in purchases. Amanda's collection of delivery food containers filling the kitchen trash. Premium restaurants I could never afford on my pension. But my study was the final insult. My private space, the one room that was supposed to be mine, had become Patricia's crafting station. Fabric and ribbon and hot glue guns covered my desk. My firefighting manuals were stacked on the floor. My awards were face down, being used as cutting boards. I stood in the doorway of my violated sanctuary and felt something fundamental shift inside me. For 40 years I'd believed in family, believed in sacrifice, believed that if I just provided enough, worked hard enough, gave enough, eventually they'd appreciate it. I'd been wrong. I walked to my file cabinet, the one piece of furniture they hadn't repurposed. My hands shook as I opened the bottom drawer and pulled out my financial documents. Life insurance policy, $1 million. Beneficiary, Patricia Lawson. Pension beneficiary form, Patricia Lawson, 100%. The lakefront condo deed, my name only, but I'd always planned to sign it over to Amanda. Bank accounts, investment portfolios, the house deed. Everything I'd built for 40 years, all designated to go to people who told me to stay in the hospital longer because they liked life better without me. I pulled out my phone and searched for estate attorney, Oak Park, Illinois. The results filled my screen with professional headings and phone numbers. People who understood that money could be redirected, that beneficiaries could be changed, that a man could rewrite the ending of his own story. Thompson and Associates appeared at the top, specializing in estate planning and charitable giving. Same-day consultations available. I sat down carefully in the one chair they hadn't covered with Patricia's craft supplies. My surgical site throbbed, my abdomen ached, but my mind felt clearer than it had in 40 years. Tomorrow I would call Thompson and Associates. Tomorrow I would begin rewriting the story of who I'd been and who I would become. Tonight I would do something I hadn't done in decades. Tonight I would put myself first. I pulled out my laptop and opened Facebook. My account was dusty from neglect. Patricia said social media was for young people and narcissists. She preferred I stay invisible online, easier to control the narrative of our perfect family. But tonight, I was done being invisible. I typed carefully, checking each word. My surgical incisions made it hard to sit upright. But rage is a powerful painkiller. After 40 years as a Chicago firefighter, I learned that some fires can't be saved. Sometimes you have to let them burn out to prevent bigger damage. Today, I'm in recovery from cancer surgery, alone, by choice, because I finally understand that the people who take everything and give nothing will never change. They'll just keep taking until you're ash. To anyone reading this who's sacrificing everything for people who don't appreciate it, stop. Your life matters, even if they've convinced you it doesn't. My finger hovered over the post button. This would be public. This would be permanent. This would be the beginning of my family realizing I was done. I pressed it. The post went live at 6:47 p.m. on March 24th. By the time Patricia and Amanda saw it, everything would have already changed. The office of Thompson and Associates occupied the third floor of a renovated building in Oak Park. I climbed the stairs slowly, one hand on the railing, the other pressed against my healing incision. Sarah Thompson met me in reception. She was maybe 50, with sharp eyes and a firm handshake that told me she'd dealt with situations like mine before. "Mr. Lawson," she said, leading me to her office, "thank you for coming in. I read your intake form. You want to make significant changes to your estate plan. I want to leave everything to Northwestern Memorial Hospital, specifically to their cancer treatment program. Nothing to my wife or daughter." She didn't flinch. "May I ask what prompted this decision?" I told her everything. The cancer diagnosis, the surgery, the group chat messages, coming home to evidence they'd been celebrating my absence, 40 years of sacrifice that ended with stay another week. Sarah took notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she looked up at me. "Mr. Lawson, I have to ask. Are you sure? This is a decision made under stress and possibly pain. Estate changes made in anger sometimes get regretted." I pulled out my phone and showed her the group chat. She read the messages, and I watched her expression tighten. "This isn't anger," I said. "This is clarity. Illinois is not a community property state," she explained, "which works in your favor. However, your wife could still challenge this on the basis of your long marriage. We need to be strategic." "I'm listening." She pulled out a blank notepad and began sketching a plan. "We'll restructure everything. The lakefront condo gets sold immediately. Proceeds go into an irrevocable trust for the hospital. Your life insurance beneficiary changes to the trust. The house can have a life estate for you, but reverts to the hospital upon your death. Your pension death benefits, same thing. Can she challenge it? She can try. But if we document your reasoning, get your medical records showing your mental competency, and execute this while you're clearly of sound mind, it'll be very difficult. Especially since you have just cause. Abandonment during medical crisis is documented in your group chat. How long will this take? If you're certain, 2 weeks to draft everything. Another week for signing and notarization. 3 weeks from today, your entire estate will be redirected. I thought about Patricia's crafting supplies on my desk. About Amanda's assumption that the condo was hers. About 40 years of being an ATM instead of a father and husband. Let's do it. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of legal documents and medical recovery. I met with Sarah 3 times, signing papers that dismantled my family's comfortable assumptions. On April 10th, I received the final certified copies. Everything was official. Everything was changed. That afternoon, I drove to the lakefront condo where Amanda and Derek lived rent-free. I had my copies of the new estate plan in a folder, but I wasn't ready to tell them yet. I had something else to do first. I knocked on the door. Amanda answered, phone in hand, barely glancing up. "Dad, what are you doing here? You should be resting." "I'm fine. Can I come in?" She stepped aside reluctantly. The condo looked lived in and comfortable. My furniture from the original staging. My investment paying for their lifestyle. Derek emerged from the bedroom, also on his phone. "Hey, Robert. Feeling better?" "Much better. I wanted to talk to both of you about something." Amanda's phone buzzed, and she glanced at it. "Can it wait? We have a showing in 30 minutes. "No," I said firmly. "It can't wait." Something in my tone made them both look up from their screens. "I'm selling this condo. 30-day notice. You need to find somewhere else to live." The silence was absolute. Amanda's phone slipped slightly in her hand. "What?" Her voice came out as a whisper. "This condo is in my name. I'm selling it. You have 30 days. "Dad, you can't do this." Derek found his voice first. "We have a lease." "No," I said. "You have my generosity, which is ending." Amanda's eyes filled with tears, the manipulative kind she'd learned from her mother. "Daddy, why are you being like this? We love you. We've always been there for you." "Really?" I pulled out my phone and opened the group chat. "Read your response when I asked for a ride home from cancer surgery." She read it. Her face paled. "Dad, that was. I was busy. I didn't mean. You told me to Uber home after cancer surgery because you had a showing." Derek stepped forward aggressively. "You're being unreasonable. One text doesn't erase everything we've done for you." "What have you done for me?" The question hung in the air like smoke. "Name one thing. One sacrifice. One time you put my needs before yours." They looked at each other, at their phones, at the expensive condo I'd bought them, nowhere else. 30 days, I repeated. "Then this gets listed." I walked out, leaving them standing in their comfortable apartment, finally understanding that comfort was about to end. The real work happened that evening. I sat at my laptop, surgical site still tender but healing, and composed the Facebook post that would change everything. I'd been thinking about this for days. How to tell the truth without seeming vindictive. How to share my story in a way that might help others. How to make my family's comfortable lies very public. I typed carefully. 3 weeks ago, I had surgery to remove cancer from my colon. I'm 63 years old. I spent 40 years as a Chicago firefighter, running into burning buildings, working holidays, sacrificing time with family to provide them a comfortable life. When I came out of surgery and asked my family for a ride home from the hospital, my daughter told me to just Uber home because she had work. My wife told me to stay another week because she finally had the house to herself. I took an Uber home. I recovered alone. When I walked into my house, I found evidence they'd been having parties and shopping sprees while I was having cancer cut out of my body. That's when I understood. I'd spent 40 years building a life for people who saw me as a wallet, not a human being. Today I finalized the paperwork. I'm donating my entire estate to Northwestern Memorial Hospital's cancer treatment program. The lakefront condo I bought for my daughter is being sold, proceeds going to the hospital. My life insurance, my pension benefits, my house, everything goes to help cancer patients and their families. People who understand how precious life is. People who don't take it for granted. To my fellow cancer survivors, your life matters. Your time matters. Your sacrifices should be appreciated, not expected. To anyone feeling taken for granted by family, you deserve better. It's not too late to choose yourself. To families everywhere, the people who love you won't always be there. Appreciate them while you can. A text message asking how are you costs nothing but means everything. I'm not angry. I'm free. For the first time in 40 years, I'm living for myself. And to my family, who will see this and call me selfish, you're right. After 40 years of selflessness, I've finally learned to be selfish. I wish I'd learned it sooner. I attached a photo, not of myself in the hospital, not of the group chat messages, just a picture of my firefighter badge from my retirement, displayed on my desk. My cursor hovered over post. This would be nuclear. This would be permanent. This would tell the world exactly what my family had done. I pressed it at 7:15 p.m. Within minutes, the likes started. Old firefighter colleagues, neighbors, people I'd helped over the years. The comments poured in. Robert, I'm so sorry. You deserved better. This is heartbreaking. Good for you for choosing yourself. Your family should be ashamed. After everything you did for this city, they treated you like this? The shares began at 7:30. By 8, the post had 847 reactions. By 9, it had been shared 234 times. By 9:47, my phone started exploding. Patricia called first. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. Voicemail. Third call. Fourth call. Fifth call. Amanda's name appeared on my screen. Voicemail. Derek called from Amanda's phone. Voicemail. The text messages started pouring in. Patricia. Robert, what did you do? Patricia. Call me right now. Patricia. Delete that post immediately. Patricia. People are calling me. Patricia. My friends saw it. Patricia. You're making us look terrible. Amanda. Dad, please take down the post. Amanda. You're embarrassing us. Amanda. This is going viral. Amanda. Everyone we know has seen it. Amanda. Our clients are asking about it. I set my phone on silent and watched the numbers climb. 1,200 reactions, 420 shares, 300 plus comments. The post was doing exactly what I'd hoped. It was telling the truth in a way that couldn't be ignored or rewritten. At 10:30 p.m., my phone showed 9 missed calls and 127 text messages, all from Patricia and Amanda. Not one of them said, I'm sorry, or how are you feeling? Every message was about their embarrassment, their reputation, their discomfort. Just like always, it was about them. I made myself chamomile tea and sat in my study, watching my old life burn down in the most satisfying way possible. Tomorrow they'd come to the house. Tomorrow would be the confrontation I'd been preparing for. Tonight, I would sleep peacefully for the first time since my diagnosis. The pounding on my door started at 7:15 a.m. I'd been awake for an hour, drinking coffee and watching my Facebook post continue to spread. Overnight, it had reached 4,200 reactions and been shared 892 times. Several local news stations had commented, asking to interview me. "Robert!" Patricia's voice cut through the door. "Open this door right now!" I took my time walking to the entryway, letting each second of their panic sink in. When I opened the door, I found all three of them on my porch. Patricia's hair was disheveled. Amanda's eyes were red from crying. Derek looked like he wanted to punch someone. "Inside," I said calmly. "We should have this conversation privately." They exploded the moment the door closed. "How could you do this to us?" Patricia's voice hit that particular pitch she used when she wanted me to feel guilty. "That post has been seen by thousands of people." "Good," I replied. "Then thousands of people know the truth." "The truth?" Amanda's voice cracked. "You made us sound like monsters." "I made you sound exactly like what you are." Derek stepped forward aggressively. "You need to delete that post and apologize. This is affecting Amanda's business. Our clients are asking questions." "I imagine they are." I sipped my coffee slowly, watching them squirm, probably wondering if they want to work with someone who tells their cancer patient father to Uber home from the hospital. "It wasn't like that," Amanda's manipulative tears started. "I was confused. I didn't understand how serious it was. I showed you the messages from the doctor about my surgery date. I told you it was cancer. You knew exactly how serious it was. You just didn't care." Patricia switched tactics, her voice dropping to the sweet tone she used when she wanted something. "Honey, we made mistakes. We're sorry. But airing our private family issues on social media is wrong. We can fix this privately. We've had 40 years to fix this privately. Nothing changed." "Because you never told us there was a problem." Patricia's mask slipped. "You just provided, and now suddenly you're angry we accepted what you offered?" "I offered sacrifice out of love. You took it as your right." The room fell silent, except for the ticking of the mantel clock I'd bought 20 years ago. "Dad, please." Amanda tried one more time. "We'll be better. We'll show up more. We'll appreciate you. Just delete the post and cancel whatever you did with the estate. The estate is done. Irrevocable trust. Everything goes to Northwestern Memorial when I die. The condo is being sold in 3 weeks. This house will revert to the hospital." Patricia's face went white. "You can't do that. I'm your wife. I have rights. In Illinois, I can absolutely do that. My attorney made sure of it." "Where will I live?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "That's no longer my problem." The words hung in the air like the moment before a building collapses. Derek found his anger first. "You're a selfish old man. After everything they've done for you. Name one thing." I stood up. Surgical site protesting, but rage carrying me through. "Name one sacrifice either of them made for me." "One time they put my needs first. One moment they chose me over their comfort." He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. "You have 48 hours to remove your belongings from this house." "Amanda, you have 30 days for the condo." "Patricia, I'm filing for divorce next week." Illinois is a no-fault state, so this will be simple and quick. "You can't be serious." Patricia's eyes were wild now. 35 years of marriage, and you're throwing it away over one text message? "I'm throwing it away over 12,775 days of being taken for granted." The text message just made me finally see it clearly. I walked to the door and opened it. "This conversation is over." They didn't move at first, shocked into stillness. 48 hours, I repeated. "After that, I'm changing the locks." Amanda tried one more manipulation. "What will people think when they find out you threw out your own family?" "I think they already know. It's all in the post." They left in a flurry of threats and tears. Lawyers would be called. This wasn't over. I'd regret this. The classic responses of people who'd lost control they never should have had. I closed the door behind them and returned to my coffee. Through the window, I watched them argue on the front lawn. Patricia gesturing wildly. Amanda crying. Derek on his phone, probably calling a lawyer. Let them call. Sarah Thompson had assured me everything was airtight. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Mr. Lawson, this is Jennifer Chen from NBC Chicago. We'd love to interview you about your story. It's resonating with thousands of people. Would you be willing to share your experience on air? I stared at the message. A TV interview would make this even more public, even more permanent. It would cement their humiliation in a way they could never escape. I typed back, yes. When would work for you? The next 3 days passed in a blur of activity. Patricia and Amanda came back with a moving truck, loading up items while shooting me poisonous looks. Derek muttered threats about elder abuse that meant nothing legally. I watched them take furniture they'd never paid for, clothes they'd bought with money I'd earned, mementos from trips I'd funded. Each item was evidence of a life I'd built for people who never appreciated it. On day 2, while they were loading boxes, a FedEx truck arrived. Divorce papers from Sarah Thompson, already filed. Patricia grabbed them from my hands and read them in disbelief. You actually did it. I told you I would. She looked around at the house we'd shared for 35 years, at the rooms I'd remodeled and the gardens I'd maintained and the roof I'd repaired twice. I gave you my life, she said quietly. No, I corrected her. I gave you mine. You just consumed it. The NBC interview happened on April 15th. They sent a crew to my house, now emptier without Patricia's things. The reporter, Jennifer Chen, had intelligent eyes and asked thoughtful questions. Mr. Lawson, tell us what happened. I explained everything. The cancer diagnosis, the surgery, the group chat messages, the decision to redirect my estate. Your Facebook post has been shared over 2,000 times now. Why did you decide to make this public? Because silence protects the people who hurt us. I spent 40 years being silent about how little I mattered to my own family. Other people are living the same reality. Maybe my story helps them find their voice. Your wife and daughter claim you're being vindictive. I'm being honest. There's a difference. The interview aired that evening. By morning, my Facebook friend requests had jumped to over 800. Messages poured in from strangers, sharing their own stories of family neglect and choosing themselves. One message stood out. From a woman named Carol in Michigan. My husband had a stroke last year. His adult children didn't visit once during his month in rehab. I thought we were the only family this broken. Your story helped me understand we're not alone. Thank you for your courage. That's when I understood. This wasn't just about my revenge. It was about giving voice to thousands of people who'd been made to feel selfish for expecting basic human decency from family. The divorce finalized in June. Patricia got nothing except what the law required, which in Illinois for a marriage over 20 years meant very little since I'd structured everything properly. She moved to a small apartment in Evanston, got a job as a receptionist, and learned what it meant to support herself. Amanda lost the condo when it sold in May. She and Derek rented a studio in a less desirable neighborhood. Her real estate business suffered from the publicity, but eventually recovered. Last I heard, she was doing well, living within her means for the first time in her life. As for me, I spent the summer recovering, both from cancer and from 40 years of emotional neglect. In July, I flew to Montana and spent 2 weeks fishing in rivers I'd only seen in magazines. In August, I drove Route 66, stopping at every ridiculous tourist trap and enjoying every minute. In September, I enrolled in a woodworking class I'd always wanted to take. I made friends, real friends, based on mutual respect rather than financial obligation. Tom, a retired teacher who shared my love of fishing. Margaret, a widow who taught me to play bridge. Daniel, a younger firefighter who wanted to hear stories from my career. On my 64th birthday in October, I received a card from Amanda. Not a text. An actual handwritten card. Dad, I'm sorry. I finally understand what we took from you. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I'm working on being better. Not for you, but for me. Thank you for teaching me that lesson, even though I fought it. Love, Amanda. I didn't respond immediately. Trust isn't rebuilt with one card. But I kept it on my refrigerator as evidence that sometimes people can change when they finally have to. Patricia never apologized. I didn't expect her to. Some people are fundamentally incapable of seeing their own selfishness. In November, Northwestern Memorial invited me to speak at a cancer survivor event. I stood before a room of patients and families and told my story again. Not about revenge, but about recognizing your worth. After the speech, a man about my age approached me. His name was Richard, and he was newly diagnosed with colon cancer. Your story probably saved my marriage, he told me. I showed it to my wife and kids. We had a hard conversation about what I needed from them during treatment. They showed up every day. Because they saw what happens when families don't. That's when I knew. My Facebook post, my public revenge, my choice to burn down a comfortable life had mattered. Not just for me, but for people like Richard who learned from my pain. The holiday season approached, and for the first time in 40 years, I spent Christmas alone. Not lonely. Alone. There's a difference. I cooked myself a small turkey. I watched old movies. I called Tom and Margaret and Daniel. I donated money to the cancer treatment program in my own name. On Christmas evening, my phone rang. Amanda's number. I almost didn't answer. Dad? Her voice was tentative. I just wanted to wish you Merry Christmas. I'm not asking for anything. I wanted you to know I'm thinking about you. Merry Christmas, Amanda. Are you alone? By choice. A pause. That's good, that you're choosing. I'm learning to choose too. Derek and I are in counseling. I'm working on myself. It's hard. Growth usually is. Dad, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Do you think someday we might be able to rebuild something? Not what we had before. Something new. Something healthier. I looked around my quiet house. At the life I'd built for myself in 8 months. At the peace I'd found in solitude. Maybe, I said honestly. Time will tell. Thank you for not saying no. After we hung up, I sat in my recliner, the one piece of furniture I'd kept from the old life, and thought about redemption. Some stories end with dramatic reconciliation. This one ended with something more valuable. Possibility. The possibility that my daughter might become someone worth knowing. The possibility that I might forgive, not for her benefit, but for mine. The possibility that trauma could transform into growth for both of us. But whether that possibility became reality or not, I was fine. For the first time in my adult life, my happiness didn't depend on anyone else's choices. I was 64 years old. I was cancer-free. I was divorced. I was estranged from most of my family. And I was happy. Genuinely, completely happy. The Chicago winter pressed against my windows, but inside, I was warm. I had enough money to be comfortable. I had friends who chose me. I had hobbies that brought joy. I had days stretching ahead of me, full of possibilities I'd never dared imagine. My phone buzzed with another message. Carol from Michigan, checking in like she did every few weeks. How are you doing, Robert? Thinking about you during the holidays. I smiled and typed back. Doing great. Life is good. And for once, it wasn't a lie told to make someone else comfortable. It was just the truth. If this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button for Velvet Revenge. Share your own experiences in the comments. And remember, it's never too late to choose yourself. Your life matters, even if the people around you act like it doesn't. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone else find their courage.